That's what I get for looking at the mayor and answering the question. Additionally, though, my suspicion, and you hit the nail on the head a few moments ago, our issue is we're out of sync on our budget. If we could change
for health insurance.
Exactly.
Premium.
If we could change the date of renewal of health insurance, which is November 1, move that to some earlier or later time, well, actually have to be earlier, then we could get those numbers, because the two elements of health insurance are experience and medical inflation. So medical inflation we have really no local control over, but we do have experience, we do have controls to some extent over the way that our employees utilize that health insurance. So when the insurance company is getting that information over 3 months on a 12-month contract, they're naturally pretty reluctant to tell you what the increase might be. And if you've had a fairly heavy experience the first 3 months, you're going to see the estimate reflecting that heavier experience. So anyway, those are just elements, but there are some things institutionally we might be able to work out with the insurance company.
If I may. Yeah, thank you for that. I have had one person talk to me about not being happy with us taking the 2% foregone amount. The foregone amount, and I'm sure a lot of the public understands because you explained it, that it's taxes that we were allowed to by law take and in previous years have not taken. They remain on the books. We can reach back and get them. Some community that I saw in the newspapers reaching back and taking like 9% that they've got laying on the books, a large amount. But we've got $600,000 back there. We're going to take 2%, which is $108,350 proposed in this budget. And I actually have less problem with that because you've shown us where we need to spend it, as opposed to my complaint about revenue first, expending it second. There we had a need, and y'all determined the best way to cover that would be to reach back in the foregone. When we were threatened with the personal property tax change by the legislature that would have hit us to the tune of $200,000, I think, had they taken $220,000, the entire thing, we had 3 years worth of cover ourselves built in effectively as what I called a savings account, because we had foregone taxes in the past. And I was very proud of earlier city councils and city councils that I've been sitting on that have created that amount. Thank you, ma'am.
I was going to mention, though, that there was some discussion that cities might not have been able to backfill that with foregone amounts.
And I talked to Senate Pro Tem personally at dinner about that.
But it was a conversation the legislators were having. I do want to say that your assumption that we start with revenue and then see what we can spend it on is inaccurate. The reason the council, I think, has so much difficulty moving around some limited number of dollars at a budget workshop is because city staff and I have worked very hard to identify what the absolute needs are. I mean, you saw some of the things that we have to subsidize because we care about this place. We care about kids going to the swimming pool, for example. So there are things that our community has said it values. If you read our comprehensive plan, if you go to a public forum where people speak about the things that are important to them and their families, that's what we're trying to spend these dollars on. And it's not we assume we have a bunch of money, let's hurry up and spend it. It's more like a lot of requests from departments across the city get turned down before the council ever sees this budget. And I'm sure all of those staffers out there will say that. And Don, too. That's why his chin is so set tonight. We do have a motion and a second on the floor, but Don, did you have something to add to clarify this discussion?
Just to answer the question that Walter had asked earlier, the health insurance, the 15% is about $224,000 scattered across all of the operating funds, including enterprise funds.
And a 1% change would be?
About $15,000.
Thank you.
And it looks like Sue has something.
Okay,
yes?
well, I served on the Employee Compensation Committee when they were doing presentations about the medical insurance. And one of the things that changed after when they were saying, well, first of all, we're probably going to increase everything 12% because of the Affordable Health Care Act to where everyone has to be included, so therefore it was going to go up that much. And then it was, they were talking about, they need about 80% of the premiums that we pay, they needed, excuse me, I'm sorry, the 12% was for overhead. And then, but they were talking about how much it was going to go up because of the Affordable Health Care Act. Well, then that was put off a year, so that might reduce our rates, but we didn't know that at the time. The other part was that usually the insurance company figures we're going to have X amount of claims, and they assume that about 80% will be claimed, and there'll be a cushion. And in the last couple of years, at least last year, we used it all. We claimed all of the premiums. So that's one of the reasons why it has to go up. But these things that we don't know about, like whether or not when the federal government says, oh, no, you don't have to do it till next year, well, it's going to come in next year. Yes, changing the date would help, but it doesn't change that a lot. And as far as giving the employees a raise, if their medical insurance goes up 15% and their contribution goes up, I think that's going to eat up all the raise that they get. And the only people that are really eligible for raises that are more eligible are the people who they only make 80% of the going rate for what they do. Part of the reason that we pay our employees so well is because we're transparent and because we're a public entity. Our employees have to spend half their time justifying and explaining what they do to the public. I'm amazed they ever have any time to actually do the job, because they're going around not only explaining to us all the time, but explaining to the public in various meetings of exactly what's going on. So, if you want to know anything, it's there. No one's hiding it. And I'm not saying that they are, but that's why our expenses get to be where they are.
Is there other discussion? Wayne?
Yeah, okay. It's hard for me to say that I really approve of a 3% property tax, because I probably don't like taxes any better than most of you out there. Sue, you made the comment that our employees are really, really well paid. Well, they're paid market value.
Not all of them.
And,
Not fair.
well, let me finish.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. They are well paid. Most of them are at market values if they've been with us for very long. Part of their job description is not being a public face to the city of Moscow. They're paid to do a job. That's extra that they have to do. It takes up more time. But I digress a little bit. It's hard to look at a $57 million budget and try to really even get a handle on it. I think Gary did an excellent job of presenting it in the 20 minutes that he did. We looked at it for, 2.5 hours on our budget workshop. A lot of that is enterprise funds, which is money in, money out. You collect fees for the sewer and then you pay for it. But we look at, why are we increasing our sewer fees? Why are we increasing our water rates? And the sewer fees is, if you take a look at how old the sewer system is, it's over 100 years old in some cases, it has to be replaced. The infrastructure is not good. But if you also take a look at the wastewater treatment plant and the different phases that we've had to comply with the federal government and the EPA in order for our wastewater treatment plant permit and discharge permits to be applicable, that costs a lot of money too. But we get into discretionary funds too that are not in enterprise funds, and one of the things that we look at is look at the streets. And we look at other communities that all of a sudden find themselves in trouble infrastructure-wise because they haven't been putting money away. They haven't looked for that rainy day when suddenly one of the streets fell out from underneath itself. We've got a great street maintenance program going on right now for streets that are in fairly decent shape to maintain the longevity of them. We have some, though, that I get concerned about that already have alligator cracking. Those streets are going away. There's nothing that can be done to them other than to rebuild them, and we really don't have the money to rebuild all those streets. We don't have enough money right now as it is. So when we came through last, 2 or 3 years ago with a depressed economy, and we were really starting to be concerned about our cash flow, our where is our money going to be coming from? And I think staff did a great job of getting us through that particular tough spot. 3% doesn't sound like very much, but I think it's time that we do pick that up and apply it towards areas that are needed. I have to disagree with Walter when you talk about give them X amount of dollars and then figure out how they're going to spend it.
Thank you. Tom?
I just wanted to say a couple things, and that is, I think that each one of us have areas within this budget where we would prefer not to spend whatever dollars they are. For me, it's the repainting the police cars to make them all black and white. I just think that's the silliest thing. I remember watching What Adam 12 when I was a kid, but I gave up the black and white, passion a long time ago. I like Moscow's white and blue and gold, protecting with pride logo and so forth. And I think it's a waste of money to paint them all black and white. I'd rather put that money, whatever it is, I can't remember now, into, X number of potholes that we could fix in Moscow or a few more feet of sidewalks. That would be my preference. But I'm one of 6. I can't have that impact. I had more impact tonight trying to get, an extra 90,000 for sidewalks based on the levy rate. So there's a limited amount that we can change up here. I think I'm the only one that cares about the painting thing. But I think that the budget is overall fair and balanced, and I appreciate all the work that city staff and the mayor and the supervisor put into just putting it all together and bringing it to us. So I'm going to continue to support it, even though my support of Sue's motion didn't get accepted.
Maybe next year. Other
Maybe next
discussion. Okay, Sue?
I have to remember my train of thought. And I think Wayne brings up a good point. As I keep saying, my swan song will probably be the Tooth Fairy isn't coming anymore. We're not going to get, you look at a lot of the streets and a lot of the sidewalks that have been done in the last few years, and that was ERA grants. That was federal stimulus money. It did filter down, took forever to filter down through the feds to the state to us. But every time the city grows, yes, the developers build the streets because the city doesn't build streets. But down the road in 20 years, who's going to maintain them? It's the city that maintains them. So just because, and when something is built, you get money to build the transit center, but then you have to maintain it, then you have to operate it. So that's why I keep wanting to stash money for the 30 years down the road when we're going to have to, even in a brand new street, the developer's not going to repave it. It's going to be the city.